Hey, David T.S. Wood here, and welcome to my Extra Mile. Our comment winner is Zen Jen. She said this, she said 100% responsibility. That is one of my top three values in life. She said, thanks, David. Please can we have some more of these 15-minute mindset talks? She said, they are so easy to fit into my day. She was referring to the Buck Stops Here show that I did driving in my car. And yeah, I'm going to do a lot more of those. Thank you, Jen. And today's show, what can I say? Listen, everyone understands the power of social media. Not everyone understands exactly how to do it elegantly, authentically, and successfully. And our guest today, she is absolutely brilliant. She's authentic, she's loving, she's kind. And she's going to share with you her rituals, her daily habits around social media and why she is so successful. So enjoy the show with the incredible Krystal, Morrison, and don't forget, and we'll definitely see you on the other side. Yeah, really. Well, how I see you. I know you may not agree exactly how I word this, but I'm gonna word it the way I see it. And you know that I'm not a BSer, and you also know that I only say what's in my truth. But you're incredibly successful in a lot of arenas, and there's a humility to it, but there's also this kind of like, um, you're like nervous about being on the show, and I love it. I love the fact that you got your crap together over here, but it's like, oh gosh, that. And I think that's really what's beautiful about all of us as we're growing into something, is that tingle of 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 doubt, or that tingle of uncertainty, is really when we're on the cusp or on the edge of growing and expanding. So I just want to just honor the fact that you were feeling a little bit nervous, and I think everyone out there who's watching us right now are thinking, God, if I was in that situation, I'd probably be nervous too.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I feel that often when I don't want to do something or when I feel those nerves come up, I feel that's that new level of me that should step into it. And that's when I ask myself, what would, if there's ever a time when I'm not sure or I feel really nervous and it would be really easy to quit or not do the thing, I ask, what would that person that I'm trying to become this year or in 5 years, what would she do? And
That's such a great shift, let's say, because a lot of people don't put themselves in that situation. I love the simplicity of that mindset. Okay, 5 years from now, the person I'm becoming, what would that person do in this moment? What a simple way to ask questions of yourself, versus what a lot of people do is, what would somebody else be doing in this situation? I've had that a lot of people say, what would you be doing in that situation? That's what I hear in my head. But I love the idea of accountability, saying, well, the person I'm becoming in 5 years, how is she going to be acting in this moment? She's going to have the courage. She's going to be flowing. She's going to be authentic. And what I love about that is, I think that when we're building neural pathways in the brain, the way you're doing this, which I rarely hear, in fact, I've never heard it on the show, using that strategy, is a really brilliant way of actually creating the neural pathways, because you're actually taking responsibility for you, not now, but also in the future, right?
yes, yes, and it takes away the comparison for me as well. As you said, people will ask me, what would you do, Krystal? Or and it really takes away any sort of comparison. It's just about myself and my own level of growth, and it takes away any stories of what I should be more like that person or that person, and it
Yeah,
just gets me into my body. Yeah.
yeah, that's that great saying, right? Don't shoot it all over yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I want to ask this question, and again, like most people get to know right now, is I just like to push record and go into a conversation. So there's no real, and that's also a little bit scary for some people, because they don't know where the hell we're going to go. But um, I'm fascinated by this, because I do know you. You've stayed at my house. I consider us to be friends, and we don't spend as much time together as I'd like, but certainly, you're a very beautiful and dynamic human being. But I wonder, you know, when people look at someone, they see them. You've got a healthy body, you've got a healthy mind, you've got a healthy relationship, you've got beautiful kids. I mean, you've got you've got your life together. But that thing that women go through about comparison when they're looking in the mirror, and that sort of the little voice that's never satisfied, or beating ourselves up, when someone looks at you and your external beauty is undeniable, and you obviously have the inside as well, but how hard was that, to grow up as a beautiful looking woman, yet your mind isn't always there. How much time have you spent over your lifetime beating the crap out of yourself versus looking in there and seeing your own beauty? I mean, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So growing up, I was the chubby girl in school. And so I was the funny girl. So for me, it wasn't external growing up until about high school. And then I guess lost some of what my parents called, like the baby weight, or they called it something cute and sweet. But I really grew into.
Call it puppy fat? What do they call it?
I can't remember. It was,
Oh.
I can't even remember. But it wasn't. It was just always like a little bit of that's how I saw myself growing up, and that's I had experiences with bullying and those things. But then, so from a young age, I always found the people that I felt comfortable with, that were kind to me, but also went for being the funny girl. So I was always the one making the joke, or making everyone comfortable, because I knew what it was like to feel uncomfortable in a group setting or in class or whatever. And then I got into high school, and I can't remember, it was after a summer. And of course I'd gotten taller and really grown into just kind of grown out of that phase. And I went in, and all of a sudden I was this like this new version of myself, I guess. It was definitely like one of those 90s teen movies. Like maybe I manifested that. But I remember being really visual at the time. Like I remember thinking in my mind, this is I want to grow taller, and I would always visualize, and I had that. I don't know where it came from, but that was something that I always did when I would feel sort of hopeless, or like I was just stuck, even at that young age. So then I came back, and I was more fit in, so to speak, and then it really changed how people saw me, but it didn't really change how I saw myself. Like I still really wanted people to see me as kind and funny and all the things that I loved about myself, because I really learned to love my inner self. That's what I felt I had built and worked hard to become. So that was my school journey, and so it's never really been. I think it's interesting when people, even in network marketing, will say, "Oh, well, you must have it so easy, Krystal. People must just fall out of the sky and want to work with you." And they say it sort of, because I can present well on Instagram or take a nice photo, but truly it doesn't matter, because I have some people who will not approach me because they maybe don't feel like I would want to speak to them. And so I find I work hard to present the relatable part of myself that really sees everyone as equal, and we're all souls, and we're all on this experience. And even though I've had 2 babies now, and I've gone through highs and lows in my weight. I've gone through feeling like I wasn't getting any sleep. And again, people might say, "Oh, Krystal, you look nice." But to me, I was like, I don't feel like I look like myself. I'd had those days where I felt really tired and just low. And so always just bringing it back to who I am and who other people are. And so I wouldn't say it's a challenge, but I do get that quite often, where to me, I think we're all the same. We all have these challenges. And even for me, I'm at this level right now. And I just, to be really honest and frank about like the physical, I just went through the quarantine, and I joke a lot on social media about like, I gained the quarantine 15. Who didn't? And so that was a new phase in my life. I've gone through postpartum journeys. And so that was new. And I shared that openly, that I just sort of slacked on my habits for a bit. And then,
so it's interesting though, Krystal, because, you know, I was talking to my assistant Denise, who you know, and she was talking about following you on social media and what she loves about your style. And she says she comments quite often on you, and quite often it's very easy. I watch people on their social media where it's like, they don't read anything, or I'll post something that has a lot of meaning, and I read a comment that someone says, "Hey, you look great," which means they didn't read it at all. They just responding to the photographs, and you see all that. But it's really lovely because she's in a completely different age demographic to you. I mean, she must be 100. No, I'm just kidding. She's, you know, she's 50, right? And so we're talking about a generation apart. And yet, you know, your journey with young children, she's already been through. But how you talk and the way you interact with your children, the way you sort of talk about yourself, you know, I love the fact that you've drawn in, and people I care about, you know, have drawn them in such an authentic way. And I think, you know, what I'd love to do is spend some time today and sort of unpack your social media sort of mindset. Before we do though, when you just talked about, you know, that inner journey versus the outer journey, the other thing you've done is, you know, to give context, is you've been able to generate and create a multiple six-figure income from home while having 2 babies in the network marketing profession. And I know you were close to quitting on a lot of occasions in the beginning, because it's tough to get there. Watching you today with the elegance, and we're going to go through some of your, how you goal set, which I just love. You just mentioned to me about one of the things you do at events, which I think is so fabulous. But let's go back into social media, because if we go back to, you know, you as a high school child, or, you know, that middle school child, where you're struggling with, you know, identity in one sense of how you look, but cultivating that inner journey, that sort of understanding that using humor. I use humor a lot as well. I think that's why we get on. But I use humor a lot to diffuse negative situations and to stop my mom being a bear. You know, so I would use humor as a diffuser. But, you know, I would say that probably in the beginning, when you first started social media, it's actually can feel quite risky, can it? I mean, I see you're putting yourself out there, you're putting yourself in the hands of other people to judge or to compare, and trying to get it right. And all these, I mean, was that your early situation with social media? Was it hard? Were you afraid? Was it easy to post? I mean, what was that? Take us back to when it was like the early days, because there's a lot of people listening to you right now who are in those early days and are thinking, what the hell do I have to do? No one's responding, or they're waiting for the likes. They're sitting there and they keep opening their social, and it's like,
they're posting and praying. Yeah. I love that term. So it was a challenge in the beginning. I say that when I first started social media, I was a consumer. I wasn't a contributor. So prior to starting network marketing, I was one of those people that would log on. I was on quite often. And this was when I only had Facebook. And I would scroll, but I wouldn't even like or comment on posts because I didn't want people to know I was on social media. Like that was my contribution to social media. And so, and I was quite private. I really only posted pictures a couple of times a year. So to step into social media, that was certainly a business decision. It wasn't like I was already on there. It was, I need to do this to grow my reach and to grow my connections. And there was so many things I was attracted to with it, because I'm not the person that can go and walk up to someone and invite them to an opportunity meeting. It's just, I have to get to know somebody first, and I want someone to know me. So social media resonated with me. The fact that I could meet 10 people a day with small children really resonated with me. But in the beginning, it was definitely a challenge to put myself out there. And that's the biggest shift for me was I wrote down all the people that I thought would support me. My parents, my best friends, and the people that I'd already talked to about my new network marketing endeavor. And And then I wrote down all the people that I thought would judge me. And I just looked at it and I thought, what do I care that much about these people that may block me or may say something unkind or may have an opinion? And it just really hit me that no matter what I did, they were going to have an opinion, because that was the moment in their life that they're at. It wasn't really personal. Like I could, walk by them, say it was people from my old career. I could walk by them at the water cooler and they might say like, they might have something negative to say no matter what. So for me to just really acknowledge that if somebody was going to be negative, it was their own story that day that was going to bring upon that negativity, really helped me focus on just telling my story and focusing on the people that I could inspire.
I want to touch on that a little bit, because I think it's so important, this idea of projection. When someone's negative or struggling internally or are hard on themselves or judgmental of themselves, then they will project out that same, anger at themselves, distrust of themselves, hatred of themselves, all these different things. So when someone's publicly, doing that, like you say, understanding that it says more about them than it says about you, that they have the time to even engage in that kind of, posting something negative to another human being, the fact that they're even in that place. I always think about what's going on inside of them, like you, and understanding that is really powerful. I want to ask you a question though, before we get into your sort of do's and don'ts. There's a lot of people that that are on social media, because you're in a network marketing profession. We have predominantly women, but there are some people that just simply aren't growing. They have personality, they have looks, they have, stories, they have success, all these different things. But you look at, and they're posting every single day, but there's just no traction. And there's no, maybe it's, and I wonder, I'm wondering what you see. Because when I look at it, if I was, and again, I'm not in the comparison game, but if I was looking for clues for success, not comparing, but saying, well, Krystal, your social media is constantly growing and you're changing and growing. If I went back, and I did that this morning, I went back to your early post and had a look now, and just looking at, the conversation, what you're writing about, how you're writing. But what do you think it is? Why, what is it about some of the people who very, very intimately, they're not seeing that growth? What advice would you give them? Because this may be a light bulb moment for a lot of people to say, oh, maybe I just got to stop. And I've got some thoughts about it, but I don't know if they're true. And I consider you to be more of an expert. I'm just kind of, I don't understand this. And I'm going to be learning from you today. So you're the teacher, I'm the student. So, but what's your thought when you see someone who just seems to be stuck, yet they're doing everything you're doing, but they're not doing it really? They're missing some of the nuances of what you do.
I see this often, and I get this question from people feeling frustrated. I'm doing everything right. So the first thing I always look at, and I have had weeks or months as well where I feel flat on social media. Like I will not have a new follower. I'll be like, I haven't made any new friends. What's up? Like, is Instagram broken? But really, it's that reflection for me.
Wait. I gotta laugh at that. Is Instagram broken?
It must be broken.
That's such a great way to think. Oh, it must be broken because I'm not getting any success.
It couldn't possibly be me. And then, so really, even though the content that I'm putting out is very similar, and I may be using the same, the same lighting in my photos, and everything might add up, but it's my energy. And it's what am I feeling? I really believe it's what am I feeling when I'm posting? So I will ask people that, what are you feeling when you're posting? Because often people could be having the worst day ever. For me, I have daily practices that are really important for keeping me in I say high vibe, high frequency. That's really important for me. And so when I'm not there and then I go to post, I feel like my message isn't really received. And I see that the same for other people, whether or not they have a practice or they don't. But if say they're having an off morning and, we've seen it, like they stub their toe and then they're late dropping their kids off at school. And then they're like, oh, I got to get a post up because that's what I have to do if I'm going to be a network marketer. And they just like post it and they get 0 interaction, 0 comments. And so I think there's a larger energy at play there that's really big and powerful. So I always look at that when I'm looking at myself or anyone that's asking me that question. And then the other piece is the posting and praying. So a lot of people will post and they don't build community. So they post and then they're out. They post and they're like, great, somebody's gonna buy something today. And then when they don't, they feel like they fail, or like Instagram's broken, where it's more, I post and then I communicate. So I will post and then I will connect, and I will build community and build relationships, not on a huge scale, but usually 5 to 10 people a day I'll try and be in contact with.
Do you do that? Do you do that in private message, or do you do that on the comments? So what I do, if someone comments on my social media, I just feel like if you were talking to me and I turned my back on you, I would feel rude. So for one thing I always attempt to do, and I'd say I do it probably 90% of the time, is really read the comments and respond to them authentically. And sometimes I don't feel anything and I'll just say thank you because of the comment. And sometimes I really think and I'll respond to it. So for me, it's kind of like a conversation. And sometimes people will reply, and I'm not always good at going back for that third time because of just time, but I do attempt to sort of, sometimes I'll go back a week later and I'll just have a look through the comments to see if I've missed someone. And sometimes I don't even know if they get it actually after that time, but I feel, and it's not an obligation. I sometimes feel obliged to post, which I don't like that feeling. So just in relationship to what you're saying right now, in regards to, you know, how you're feeling, I sometimes wake up and I think, oh, you know, I gotta. And whenever I do that, it's always a bum. When I feel like I want to, and it's something I really want to talk about or something I really want to share, it's always surprises me how many people get involved. So I love that. But going back to that conversation, do you comment, do you connect like on the comment itself, or do you go DM?
Yes, it's the same for me. I mean, sometimes we miss them, but 90 to 95% of the time I will respond to a comment because I agree. It's like somebody walks by you on the street and says hello and you just keep walking, you know, it's just rude. So I always like to connect back and just appreciate that. And then also the more comments on your post, it actually helps the algorithm of Instagram as well. So every time you respond, then Instagram sees that as more interaction on your post. So it actually gets seen more. So there is some back end algorithm work there. But when I do have people connecting, then sometimes they're in my team or they're friends or they're family, and that's great, and I respond. But if there's somebody new there, a new face, then I love to go and find their profile, and if they have stories, I want to watch them, I want to follow them back, and I just want to get to know who they are and what they're about, because it reminds me of when I was just a consumer on Facebook, and I was nervous to comment on people's things, right? Like I remember like going to type something and being like, no, that's dumb, oh, that doesn't sound right. And so I think about them in their shoes. Like for a lot of people, even to leave a comment on a stranger's post is nerve-wracking and uncomfortable. And so I just want to go, so usually I'll go watch their stories, and I will usually send them a direct message saying, thanks so much for interacting on my page. I'm so excited to be following you. And then I'll ask them something about themselves.
Well, this is important for me to understand because, again, you are in a business. When I hear you talking, I don't get this sense whatsoever. I'm sure in the beginning it was more so, but when you're talking, I get this deep sense of a genuineness about being interested in people versus wanting to get people in your business. So you're not necessarily saying, look, this is a target. I'm not saying it never happens. So you may think, oh my God, this person would be great in my business and it's worth the initiation. But how many times do you respond to someone because you know that just doing it, is, you know, how it's going to be received is going to be meaningful. And I find that sometimes I'll write my longest comments to someone who I feel, I don't know, you know, this isn't common for them to talk. You know that it's a big step. And I just sort of take a breath sometimes and I'll just sort of really think about what I'm sharing back, or someone shares something intimate with me. Like someone recently shared something about their husband passing away, you know, and I just will respond and really think about it. Hold on, her husband just passed away. Okay. And I read the post again and then I respond versus you know, pushing that little heart, whatever that does. I'm not sure what that does. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but that genuineness, going back to the question for you, how often is it where you're, you know, thinking a little bit about, oh, this is someone I'd love to work with in my team, and how often is it where you're thinking, they just spoke to me, I'm going to speak back?
So I always come from they spoke to me, they're a human. A lot of my interaction is with other moms too. And I think about how isolated I felt when I had little kids, right? And then I think about the world now is like triple that. And so I just think to just bring, you know, like I just think about energy, and it kind of touches on how I feel when I'm posting. If I feel good, then when I'm feeling good, when people are commenting, I'm just hoping to bring some light into their day. So that's always bare minimum for me. And then there are the key people that I see and I think she would be really good, he would be really good, and it goes in the back of my mind. And so those people, I make sure I have a list. It's not like a like a crazy list, but it's just a list of people that that I respect, kind of like I would make in real life. People that I think there's something special about them. I think they'd be really good at this. And I just make sure that I'm checking in with them and growing a relationship, because the world is busy, life is busy, and you can lose track of people really easily on social media. So if you just meet them. And so that's the first thing I do. I'll jot them down and I grow the relationship. So I think that's the other thing, like you said, like with emojis and people just writing like, thanks, you know, and not really connecting. Everything on Instagram can be so surface. And so it's the same thing for messaging people. When I get to know someone, there's so many people who message these days in network marketing that send a message and it's like, hey girl, you'd be so good in my business. And if I had $1 for every message I get every day, you know, it's so surface. And so I personally don't go that route of like the cold message. I would rather get to know them. And then they follow me organically and see what I do. And I like that route as well, because they can watch and sort of think in the beginning, well, I could never do that. But then when they see me and they see I'm a busy mom and I have good days and bad days, then they might start to think, maybe I could do that.
Well, you know, it's interesting because, you know, you're talking about the one way seems quicker, but actually it's not, because that person that sends out that sort of scripted little response, or that, you know, post it and pray kind of response, you know, they're going to have probably 99, 95, 98% of people will just ignore it or are immune to it. Because I mean, I have that. It's, in fact, someone set up a call with me yesterday, and what went through the back of my mind is, I hope it's not one of those calls, because they just showed up out of the blue, you know, and it was just, but if people reach out to me, I genuinely find time to reach back, because, you know, but I just have this kind of spider sense telling me if that person's going to sit down and pitch me something on this call and it isn't really what she said it is, which is a catch up, because I haven't seen it for about 5 years, then there's already, for me, I can feel this, you know, because I know what I'll do is I'll stop her immediately and not play a game with her and just say, but actually, you know what, let's just stop. I won't stop the call necessarily, but I'll stop the conversation. But going that sort of that colder, you know, sort of post it and pray kind of route really is the longer version than what you're saying is about building a real relationship on so many levels. I mean, your cup, and I know that sounds a bit woo-woo, but when you're in a real relationship and you're really talking to someone and it's genuine, there is a transference of energy. I mean, you pick up something from another human being, whether they say yes to you, whatever, but, or you end up with a great friend. How many times does that happen, actually, where you've become really great friends with someone you've not physically met, or you feel a deeper connection to someone? I mean, that must have happened a lot to you, right?
Yes, I have friends that I've never met in real life that live across the world, and I feel so close to them. We really have had deep conversations, and it's, again, that daily contact that sometimes we don't even have with people in our real lives. Like some of my best friends that are busy, you know, they've got the kids and we're not texting each other every day, right? Like, whereas my Instagram friends, we do, and there's just this beautiful connection. And so, and that's really organically, it happens where somebody might respond to one of my stories or my posts, because I do put out calls to action consistently, like every week, I like to poll my audience or put out a post encouraging people, because again, I know not everyone is comfortable enough to message me and say, I want what you're selling. So I like to give them that invitation at least once a week. But primarily it'll come up in conversation where my friend, I'm just connecting, I'm asking, I use form, which I'm sure I learned on one of your podcasts early on. And it's like, where are you from? What's your occupation? What do you do for fun, recreation, and finding their motivation. And I always think of that. And so as I'm connecting, if something comes up, then I'll offer my solution. If they give me that pain point or that problem, I'll offer it. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm always, just like I would a friend. If I had a friend, you know, if I have a weight loss product and she's sitting here having coffee with me telling me she has 20 pounds to lose, I'm not going to be like, whew, that's a shame. You know, like I would be like, I might have something that can help you. Are you open to taking a look?
Yeah. It takes a while to get there. Something I want to ask you about, the other thing that I notice, and these are people who I witness in your sphere. In other words, because I know a lot of the people you work with, some that are more successful in the arena, and hopefully if they're listening to this, it's just, you know, giving something to try, because I can see what they're doing isn't necessarily working. But one thing I noticed with some people, they always want to tell people what to do. So almost every post comes from a, you know, you got to do this. So or it goes back into their pain. They're always going back into the pain of what things were like before versus what they are now. Is it effective, or is it, am I sort of, because it seems to me like when I start to read it, it almost feels like you're being drawn into a Debbie Downer type of situation. And I'm not saying hype is better, but if someone's telling me what to do instead of showing me, and if somebody is constantly referring to the past when things were broken and how it's always, but if it's constant, and is that something that's not working on social media?
I think it depends on the community that's following and who that ideal person that they're trying to attract. But for me, I always think about who can I uplift today? Because again, like you say, I'll read some posts and I turn off my Instagram and I think, I feel like I just watched the news, you know, like it actually lowers my frequency. And so I don't like to bring that energy to people's day. I think there's enough in the world right now where if people want negativity, they can find it easily. So I always think, how's somebody going to feel after they read this? And so, there is a key to vulnerability as well. So I will paint some vulnerability in a post where I'm sharing about something inspirational. So I still wanted to end with inspiration and what I did, and exactly that. I know that my solution isn't for everyone. And I know people get defensive when we are very like, you should do this because there's 100 ways. Well, there isn't the saying there's 1,000 ways to get to Rome. Like there's so many ways that people could change. So rather than telling them, I say, this is what I've done. This is what works for me. Maybe this can work for you.
Yeah, I love that, because that's why I would say when people post quotes, I just find, because everyone's a personal development guru today, right? But it's just like, I would love people that I would say, rather than post a quote, why not tell me the story of how you brought the quote to life? So this is the quote. How did you, when you read it, or, you know, how do you live that quote? For me, the story about the quote, and then show the quote if you want, but tell me the story, you know. And I think about that, you know, one of my favorite quotes is, you know, it's impossible to discover new oceans unless first you have the courage to lose sight of the shore. So virtually everything I do in life is always about, you know, losing sight of the shore and trying new things. So, you know, it's very easy for me to bring that quote to life in a story. And again, I'm not saying I do it well or not, but back to you. I think, because we don't have too long on the show, I'm definitely going to have you back, because I feel like we're just scraping the surface about authenticity. But I realize is that you didn't just become authentic on social media. I think that as a woman, as a mother, as a friend, as a lover, your authenticity is sort of blossoming throughout your entire life. How important is it, that congruency between real life and the life you're projecting into the social media world?
It is It's everything. It's hard for me to show up in an inauthentic way. So if I'm having a really hard day, for example, I just don't log on because I know I'm going to bring a lot of people down, and I know I need a minute. I'm not a robot. And so I give myself that permission. And then I really always come back to my practices. Like, and that's what I love about network marketing is me in my old career, it was so complacent. And I could go to work grumpy. I could, and I didn't have kids at the time. So I could just, yell at the Starbucks lady as I was driving away because she didn't put enough foam in my drink or whatever. Whereas this has challenged me so much to feel it first and project it and be the example for my kids and be the example for my team. And then, and going back to the authenticity, if I do take a day off because it's a bad day, then I'd love to go on the next day and tell that story in a inspiring or funny way.
Yeah.
Like I love to still share that nothing, like life isn't perfect. We're always going to have these growing moments, but really share like, what did I take out of it? And what am I doing different today? Or what wasn't I doing that led to that bad day? Because I think it just helps people in their day as well, which again, that's one thing we didn't really touch on, but value. Like if somebody comes to my page, I want them to feel value. Like they got something from me, whether it was a smile or a laugh or like a tool for mindset or products, right? But it's something there instead of like being inauthentic, right? Like that fakeness of like, oh, there's another girl or another mom sharing pictures with her babies, like there's not 1,000 of those on Instagram today.
Yeah. I want to talk about your rituals because as we sort of move toward the close, I really want to give someone who, and I notice you model. I know that I won't use a whole name because I haven't got permission to, but Kelly, I believe when I watch her and you, I can see that she's someone that you obviously regard. I mean, I love her. I love who she is and how she is. But I wonder with that modeling piece, you see someone who's successful. How often do you use modeling and how often do you see something, you notice it and say, I'm going to try that. And it sort of gives you a whole new, I notice right now with the makeup you've been doing and the drinks you've been making, and it's fun. It's really fun the way you do it. But does that come from a modeling process by watching someone successful and duplicating? And how do you keep that so that it is not disingenuous? So it's not like, like you said, you're not a robot, but what inspires you by someone else to say, I want to try that. It looks so cool. Is it because it moves you so deeply or?
Yes. So I've modeled since I began because in network marketing, there is no handbook, right? It's very much like you could do it this way or that way. And this is how this person did it, which was a little tough for me coming from an analytics background in my career. Like I wanted the exact path. So for me, modeling was really useful because I would look at somebody and think, well, if she could do it, I could do it. And just having mentors like Kelly, like people that would say, you can do it, and that's what I love about network marketing is everyone says like, I'm not special. I just did this every day. And so modeling was huge. And I think there's a difference between, there is a difference between modeling and just copying. And so I always, I'm inspired by.
By the way, whoa. That is a fabulous distinction. And it's something that the difference between copying someone and modeling someone, I just got a real little goosebumps there because you could almost do a whole training on that, right?
Yes.
Because a lot of people they'll copy something, but they're not modeling it because modeling is a growing process.
Yes.
Go on, carry on. Sorry.
And so and it kind of speaks to the energy when someone posts, right? Like sometimes somebody will put the picture up and the words and it just doesn't align. And sometimes it's because it's not their own. It didn't come from their heart. And so modeling, just getting inspiration, ideas, helped me with my belief in I can do this too. And then giving ideas of, if that person's doing that, I'm going to try it. And I say that all the time, like, it's just Instagram. It's not a bomb. Like, I can try something, and if I screw it up, whatever, I'll try again. And so just having that the guts to actually fail at it and be like, you know, my first, whatever it is, Instagram reel or Instagram story, it's probably not going to be great, but I can't just wake up tomorrow and be great at it. So I have to fumble along the way and take ideas from this person and that person. And that's when I feel it. Like if somebody inspires me, that's what I take it as, inspiration. And then how can I make that me? Yeah. And how can, what does that inspire within me to do something similar?
Yeah, I rarely take notes during my shows. And if you see me keep looking down, I've made so many little notes here. And I mean, the guts to fail, modeling versus copying, you know, consumer versus contributor, really, really great stuff. But let's go into your rituals. And let's talk about social media rituals and mindset rituals. So you have, if you lead us through your day, I think a lot of, and I'll say predominantly women, I think guys too, but I think a lot of women, especially mothers, relate to you because, like you said, it's kind of, you know, the market that really is attracted. But talk to us about, you know, your rituals for the mind and rituals for what do you do around social media. We understand that some days if you're not feeling it, you switch it off. But when you are feeling it, how much time do you dedicate? What do you, and I know it's not cookie cutter, but give us a little peek behind the curtain.
I love systems. I believe I've said that twice already. So I created my own little system that is flexible. But for me, it's difficult to show up on social media if I haven't done my own ritual. So with that, for me, it is, I have 2 babies. Well, they're not babies anymore, but a 5-year-old and an almost 3-year-old. And so when I was waking up to them, it's like you're automatically in their world and their needs. And I kind of felt like reactive versus creative. And so what I started to do was get up earlier because that was my only option. And so I get up before them and I make sure that for me, meditation is really important. I just take 15 minutes to quiet my mind. That really helps me. And, so I always do that. And if I have time to exercise, I'll do that. So that's really a non-negotiable for me. And I love to focus on my vibration, my frequency. So I will write out what I appreciate. So I put 5 minutes because I'm scheduled. I'll put 5 minutes on my timer and I give myself 5 minutes and I just challenge myself to write out everything that feels good in my life today. And there's no buts. There's no, what about this? It's just all, again, I'll talk about my husband, my kids, you know, what made me laugh with my littlest yesterday, or how I just write down the most ridiculous things. Like this morning, I was like, how cute Macy's pajamas are, but that makes me feel light and fun and eager and excited. So I do that before I do anything else, even before I show up as a mom, because it just raises me up and it's simple. I mean, that's like 20 minutes to do the meditation and then the gratitudes. So I do that. That's my personal ritual. And then for social media, my rituals are having a schedule. And so there's a lot of burnout, especially with moms, because they don't create boundaries around social media. And so somebody might comment on their post or somebody might message them and right away their phone dings and they're out of their world and they're working, but they didn't make the choice to work today. Right? Or yet this morning. And so for me, it was really important to not show up on social media until I've had that hour in the morning with my kids. So, and that may be different for other people, whether they have kids or not, but that was so important. And then
can I interrupt you for 1 sec? Just how often though, because of that discipline of having the hour before the social media discipline, do the stories come from the hour? How many times do you sort of like, I'm guessing just that must happen quite frequently, right? That because you're really present, you sense or feel or have something and it gives you the inspiration or the clarity about what you want to be posting. Is that true? Or?
Absolutely. Yes. The fun stuff happens, and that's like, I will take photos or videos, I won't go into my apps, but I'll always, if the kids are doing something cute or if I'm something funny, I'll take a video because I can always post it later when I'm not with my kids in that one-on-one time. And so that's really helped with burnout, and then just creating time. So I have a time in the day where I do 30 minutes where I check in on my inbox because it's such a distraction. Like Instagram and Facebook make money off of distracting us, right? And so how many times do we log in and then all of a sudden we're like looking at what the Kardashians had for dinner? Like it just doesn't matter. And so when I think, okay, I've got 30 minutes scheduled, I'm going to log in and I'm going to get to my inbox, then I get it done. So that's a big ritual for me, is making sure I'm getting that done. And then the same thing, when I go to post, I'm intentional about my post before I even go on to Instagram, because I don't want to get stuck in the scroll hole. So I go on, I make my post, and then I challenge myself to go interact with 10 other people, whether that's commenting or watching their stories and responding. So those are just, and all that is not even an hour of social media.
Well, I love, though, there's a couple of disciplines here that I love. And it's maybe one, because I'm not a big commenter on other people's posts, because I tend to stay away from the scrolling. However, I do like that intention of like, I'm going to connect with 10 other people. So, and you could look at, I mean, for me, it would be someone who's taken the time to comment is, you know, go, and I do often do that. You know, I always like using people's names when I reply. So, and quite often people don't have names that show on their, because it's like more of a, you know, they can't use their name on Instagram because it's already taken. So I have to click on their link, go to their bio and read their bio. And sometimes I can't find their name on their bio either. So I actually, the comment is, hey, I'd love to use your name, but I can't find your name anywhere. And then what I'll do is I'll go back and see a few days later, and I can see they've changed it and they've added their name in their bio, because it's like, who the hell are you? Because I don't want to talk to someone who I can't use their name. So, but the other thing that you said is that discipline of 10, that really is quite great, because it's like 9 more to go. And then just a simple process for me to actually put in my mind. The one thing I do is all the notifications on my phone are turned off, except for my children. So, you know, my son Ben just texted, and I know when he texts because I can hear it, and the same with my girlfriend. So if the three people in my life are texting, I can hear it. Other than that, how important is it for the notifications to be off if you're going to live authentically in your real life, be present with your family or be present with your work, and then be present with social media? Do the notifications screw it all up?
Absolutely. I haven't. It's funny that you mentioned that, because Glenn has said that time and time again, that he's requested, can I please just put on a notification for him? Because he's like, what if I have to get a hold of you? And I was like, well, then you'll get a hold of me when I look at my phone. But so yeah, I don't even I just have them totally off, but I should do that. Thank you. So I have them completely off. And I've even said to some team members, put your phone in your drawer. Like, this thing can own us. And that's what I see, is so many people quit, and so many people blame the phone and the era that we're in. And it's like, we have control. We get to choose when we pick up our phone. And so it's making those decisions, like turn off the notifications, even when I'm working. So if I'm working on Instagram or Facebook and I'm in my messages, I will get notifications the whole time. And so just imagine I was at my old desk in my old career, and I'm sitting there trying to work, and I had like Susie every 10 seconds, like, hey, Krystal, did you get that done? Hey, Krystal, can I ask you this question? Like, my head would explode. But that's how we try to operate. And then we wonder why we're overwhelmed and we're frustrated and we think network marketing's hard, because it's so much. And so creating those rituals and that control over what I allow in my mind at that moment really matters.
Well, with the photographs, I don't know this. I mean, I don't have a professional photographer or anything like that. I'm guessing Glenn is pretty good at taking photographs. I'm not sure your kids are there yet, but I'm guessing they'll be soon. But I mean, obviously, I look at how you construct photos, and some, you know, I mean, they're really beautiful. So is there a process, and how important? Because my sense is with Instagram, the photograph is what captures. In Facebook, it feels like the story captures. Because I maybe this is a question I need to ask you. I actually only ever post on Instagram, and it goes automatically to Facebook. And what I can say is there's so different audiences, and I can tell that one side is like, if there's, you know, hundreds of people commenting over here, there's only a handful over here, and vice versa. Do you actually post the same on both? So there's two questions. One is about photographs and apps you may use, and the second is about, you know, the difference between the social media platforms and the stories or how you share them.
So with the photos and the imaging, I use modeling there as well for Instagram. I took, so this is a great thing that anyone listening can do, is I took my top 3 people or companies that I followed and their images that captured me. So whether it was a blogger that, you know, had 1 million followers, or a company like Glossier or Sephora that had like really great branding, I modeled them in what are they posting and what are their images like. And so and then I kind of created like, what's the feel that I get from it? And I really try to live that in my images. So mine is quite light. Like if something's dark, I lighten it, and I have filters and presets for that. So, but again, some people can work with a darker image if that's what they're going for, as long as they're consistent. So images matter absolutely, because that's the first thing that draws in the person that's in the scroll hole, right? Like we're trying to stop that person in their tracks because they don't even know what they're looking for. So to have a good image is everything. And then the caption really matters too, to create a follower out of them. So that's how I deal with my images. And then the comparison between Facebook and Instagram is night and day. So I'll have a gorgeous image on Instagram, it'll get 400 likes, and I'll put it on Facebook and it's like my sister and my aunt liked it. But I think it's because Instagram is this pretty like shiny, visually pleasing app, and that's really, you know, a lot of people like it for that. And then Facebook is more like real, like show me your life. And so I show a lot of things that are like, it might be my messy house, it might be a picture of my daughter and there's like so much mess around her. So I wouldn't necessarily post it in my feed on Instagram, but I would put it in my stories, and I would get so many comments from friends being like, my house is that messy today too, you know, like thanks for sharing. And then I would put that same image from my stories on Facebook, and I would get great interaction because it's more raw and real over on Facebook. So that's kind of how I play between the two worlds.
Nice. And in fact, Denise said that. She said she loves your stories, and it's how she's really grown that connection to you is through watching and listening to your stories. And she says she particularly loves your youngest, and how I mean, but that's great. I mean, for me to be talking about you to somebody else, and for them to have this intimacy with you, where I don't know how often you talk to Denise, but I'm guessing it's not very often, but her feeling so connected means that everything you're doing is working. And we're talking about a generational difference. It's not like, you know, she's got young kids your age. Her kids are teens now, right? We're kind of at the end of the show. I want to bring you back because I think we could just chat for hours, but talk to me about, is there a question I could have asked or maybe didn't ask that would be helpful to someone listening right now?
You really touched on the main starting points. And if I could highlight 2 things, it would be the caring what other people think, really getting into that space of it's not personal if anybody has a problem with you. One book that you recommended years ago was The 4 Agreements, and that really helped me a ton with getting over what anyone else might think about me.
Yeah, I just want to.
That was a really good.
Krystal, sorry, your feed just broke up for a second, so I want.
Oh, okay.
No, it's fine. I want people to hear what you just said. So she was saying that, you know, about the whole, you know, what people think. And one of the books that I recommended many years ago is a friend of mine, Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote The 4 Agreements. And you know, the agreements are so simple to follow. The first one is be impeccable with your word. But it's also being impeccable with the word to yourself, how you communicate with yourself. But, you know, I really love that. Carry on, Krystal. I just want to make sure they heard that.
Okay, yeah. It's such a great book for all things. And then the other thing is the connection. And so just bringing it back to the energy that we're posting with, how we're taking care of ourselves is how we'll show up on social media and our businesses. Obviously the energy is the main component, but it's that other piece of if your social media feels flat, it's that how can you connect more? So ask yourself, how can I connect with my friends, my audience more today? How can I And again, whether it's through a post and asking a question or doing a poll in your stories, or actually stop waiting for a magical unicorn to drop into your DMs telling you they're ready to do this business, and go create momentum, create action, and talk to people without the pressure of the business. Like, that's the best thing you can do, is just go bring light and love into someone else's day and be a connector instead of just a poster.
Yeah, I love that. Going back to your original consumer versus contributor. And I suppose that's the same for a relationship. You know, I can consume and take, or want to take, or I can contribute. And it's a two-way street with no, I mean, I don't look at my friends and connect with someone and have an outcome of where the friendship's going to go. I connect because there's this, you know, it's constantly moving and ebbing and flowing. But I just want to say thank you. I really love this. You know what? It's a great show when it goes so quickly. I feel like the time just flew by. I just looked at the clock and I'm like, holy crap, you know, it's been almost an hour, right? So thank you so much. And
thank you.
Continue shining your light. I hope you reach out to Denise after this and just let her know how often I mentioned her to you and how much she loves what you're doing, because it's just great to hear that from her. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to message Denise.
Yeah, and everyone else listening, you know, just remember, this is about my extra mile. It's those tiny steps. It's those small incremental things. And what I love is Krystal's given you some, even those daily rituals. You know, she talked about those 20 minutes in the morning, the 15 of just quietening the mind. You don't have to even call it meditation. I mean, you can sit with a cup of coffee if you want, or a cup of tea, and you can still have that same kind of connection to self. But those 5 minutes of just writing down those few things that you're grateful for. And I love the fact, you know, that on those days where it may be how cute your kids' pajamas are, but the energy that does to lift you is so it's those tiny steps implemented consistently over time that gain the results. So thank you for being part of the show, Krystal. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll definitely see you on the other side.